Hey fellas, your commissioner here, coming at you for a little week. What week is it? 16? 15? 17? 17? Yeah, 17. 17 of NFL action. Um, of course, this is a little obviously bittersweet. The final video of the year. It felt like
Yay! Yay! I get my husband back. Yay!
I'd like to say that it feels like just yesterday that I sat down to do the first video of the year, but honestly, it doesn't. The season did go by in a blur, but at the same time, it felt like a long season. It was a weird season, right? Very odd season. One of the strange, of course, married, right? That screws with time. But it's always bittersweet doing this. And now part of me is obviously happy to not have to sit down here and do this every Wednesday. There's a lot of weeks where I don't feel like doing this, don't want to do this, but I fight through it. I do it for you guys. You guys deserve it. But at the same time, I will enjoy not having to do these. Part of me will miss it. Part of me will be happy that I don't have to do these anymore. So before we start getting into the games and things like that, I just want to kind of get some league business out of the way, kind of give y'all indication of some major topics that will be coming up during the off season, council retreat, some things about the draft. Loki, you literally just pooped and peed, and now you're back over here doing it again.
He's pooping.
I'm gonna catch him in the act.
He's pooping again.
Yeah. Kids, just big pooping machines. That's all they are, right? I know Josh knows what I'm talking about, right? So speaking of Josh, right? Ford, he brought up a valid question of where we stand as far as the draft resort goes in Mexico. I guess I told Craig, I told Rip, I said, hey, it's up to you guys. Do whatever you want to do. Of course, old commish, he just can't help sticking his finger in the pie, meddling a little bit. So I got some inside information from sources that I will not name about how things were shaking out, some of the different options, some of the different price ranges. Of course, did a little bit of my own research as well. So as of right now, to answer your question, I don't really know where we stand. A resort was picked out. It was Secrets, something in Cancun. It was connected with the Breathless Resort. Fairly pricey, upper end of the range of, I think, for most people's budgets. That was the first red flag for me. That was a little concerning. Of course, my number one priority, no matter where we go, is that I want everybody to be able to go, right? I want everybody to be able to afford it comfortably and have a good time. That means more than maybe having a few extra amenities or maybe a little bit nicer view, what have you. Because ultimately, they're all more or less the same. We found one really, really high-end one, which I thought was the place. Looks like a damn cruise ship. Got golf course. If you stay there, you get 2 free rounds. Of course, maybe half you guys would not care about that. Another quarter of you guys would only play maybe 9 holes and then give up. But for those 3 or 4, it would be an enjoyable experience. But again, it was obviously more expensive, but it wasn't that much more expensive than the resort that was initially tagged, Secrets. So I was like, well, what's a couple $100 more? Like, this stuff has way more things to justify the couple $100. So anyway, let's scratch this, both of them. Let's take a step back. There's the one other option is a little bit cheaper, and then we found another one that Rip actually stayed at, I believe this year. So it was a great time, a little bit more chill, a little bit more quiet. It's kind of what our group is, to be honest. So, it's still up in the air. The ball's still in Rip and Craig's court, in my opinion. I will leave it up to them. If we don't have any traction here in the next couple weeks, maybe we'll start poking the hornet's nest. But really what I challenged them to come up with, and of course it's the holidays, things are busy, this is probably why it's been a little bit of a standstill. But I challenge them to come up with some facts and figures, and whatever you pick, make sure without a shadow of a doubt that people are on board with paying this much, right? That's it, more than anything. The exact location, that's fine. I understand not wanting to put that up to a vote. It's like you're trying to corral a bunch of chickens with their heads cut off. I get there. We've been there, done that. Okay? But at the same time, people need to know the price. They need to know what the expectations are for that. So make sure they're comfortable. Okay? So next here, some of the things that will be discussed this offseason for potential changes next season and maybe even beyond. A platform change. Obviously, we've been on ESPN since the league's inception back in 2012. ESPN's great. It's got a great user interface. Not great as far as customizing, right? It's just your typical off-the-shelf software, right? I want a little bit custom homegrown solution, okay? So potentially moving to Sleeper, that would be the option. I know a lot of people. I don't really like Sleeper's UI, but as an owner, but as a commissioner, it allows me to do so much more, especially from my phone. Like ESPN, I can't even approve a trade from my phone with ESPN. I can't adjust people's budgets through my phone with ESPN, right? So it's very limited in that aspect, where Sleeper is obviously, I think, puts a lot more power in the commissioner's hands and in their fingertips. So that's one major point of discussion. Another huge, is changing the way that records are tabulated, basically. Of course, it's always been head-to-head. That's it, right? No additional points per week for being in the top half scoring. We will look into that. We will put that up to a vote of my proposal. I know others have a 2-to-1 thing. I think it should be 1-1, where you basically get one win each week if you win your matchup, and you get another win if you're a top 6 scorer. So you could potentially go 2-0 every single week, or 1-1, or 0-2. Just to try to give a little bit more merit to teams that perform well but just have bad luck with points against. This season it probably would have made a big difference, right? It would have slightly. A couple teams would have slotted in and out, right? But we will consider that. I'm sure, as always happens, kickers and defenses will be brought up. That'll get shot down right away, no problem. The horse ass bracket. Personally, I think that this change was a great success this season. There's some owners, Craig, that think it's stupid. They don't agree with it. And other people are on that board too in the council. Nick said something about that as well. It's not fair that it just so happens this season that the second and the third highest scoring teams in the league are battling out for horse ass, right? But whenever you take a step back and look at that, Duncan's lost 6 games in a row, and I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here, so let me stop with that. I'll break out that statistic. I already kind of showed it in the group me earlier, but that's the game, right? It's the same logic of, well, why should we value the regular season more for who gets last place? Just because it so happens that usually, I don't remember the last time that the team who finished last in the regular season actually got horse ass, or the lowest scoring points for in the regular season got horse ass. It doesn't happen often. It's usually the teams that get screwed by injuries, or just run into a team that gets red hot, or teams that get red hot the last 2 or 3 weeks of the season, and that's who usually ends up getting it. To me, it's no different than the playoffs. I mean, if you want to change the horse ass, then it's okay. Well, let's just give Blaine the championship. He had the best regular season. It wouldn't be fair for another team to get hot, or he gets screwed by injuries in the playoffs and him not win a title, right? I mean, that's the logic that I'm working with here. I'm just sick of the shit of too much trying to devalue the core of what fantasy football is. luck is a monster part of this game. And I think it should be a part of this game. It's frustrating, but it's also what makes it fun and an incredibly unique experience. You know, if you got teams that are just the best scoring teams just fine. Just put the top 6 teams in, or just not even have a playoffs. Who cares about head-to-head? Whoever scores the most points with their lineup over the course of 17 weeks, they win the title, right? That's just a different game. That's just a different game, and we're not playing that game. If you want to play that game, go set up your own league, do a points for league, no head-to-head, and it's just you don't play anybody every week, and you lose a lot of the rivalries and the shit-talking against your opponents and the gamesmanship of trying to block your opponent from certain pickups. That makes, in my opinion, makes this game great. That makes this game great. And yeah, it's frustrating as hell. It's unfair as hell. But to me, that's the perfect. It's the perfect encapsulation of life, right? Life's not fair. You might do everything right, and you still don't get the job, or you still don't get what you think you deserve on a grade back in school or whatever. And sometimes that's just the way the cookie crumbles, right? And it's very rare, the situation that we're in right now, where the two of the top 3 scoring teams happen to find themselves battling it out for last place. But how often has that happened? One season, and this was a weird season anyway, guys. I mean, we should not make any changes to this season or the league based on an anomaly of a season, in my opinion. I tell you this right now, and this is your commissioner's stamp of approval. The council's great and all. There are a lot of things, some things, not usually are there many things that get through that I'm not on board with, even though the council might agree with it. But there are some times that happens. They're not certainly not a shell, and I don't want to say that 100% of whatever I want or don't want happens or doesn't happen. Probably 90%, but I'm the commissioner, right? So it's one of those things. I'll put my foot down. I think that this change to horse ass format, what we got this year, is a great change. It mimics now how the playoffs operate. If you don't have a problem with the way that the playoffs operate, you shouldn't have a problem with the way the horse ass operates now, in my opinion. There's 6 teams who are just as good a shot as anybody of getting a championship, even if they might not deserve it. And there's 6 teams that are battling out for the horse ass, even if they might not all deserve it, right? And that's the game. That's a huge part of the game. Nobody was crying and moaning last season, whenever I was battling out for horse ass. Nobody cared, because everybody wanted to see me win, And even with this new format, I still would have gotten it. I went 0-3, right? So, I'm just. That's a little mini rant here to end the season, of course. That is one thing that I can guarantee you will not be changing. I think this change we made last offseason to make the horse ass the way it is a great change, and I think that it will stay for decades to come, as far as I'm concerned. So, all right, other big news. I feel like there's one other thing there's a few other topics that we need to discuss in the offseason, potentially raising the free agent keeper values. Of course, nobody's really been taking advantage of them over the last few seasons, but they could probably use a little bit of an adjustment. They're pretty low, relatively. I'm trying to limit myself on giving out bonus fab this season. Quick update on how the pick'em is going. I haven't checked in a while. So yeah, Craig is leading the way, 17-5. Golly, he is 4 games clear of the next closest owner. Now, JD, I'm a little bit, you didn't really follow the rules, so I'm a little bit perplexed on how to handle your situation. You paid the $20, so I'm inclined to just say your bowl pick'em entry is just for cash only, not for fab. But we might just do it to where only first place wins cash and only first place wins fab, and then that might just settle that. But right now, Craig's leading with his fab version and his cash version. The cash version will be 100% winner take all. The fab, I'm not sure if it's going to be first, second, third place as is tradition. We'll probably I'll discuss with the council, but as far as fab goes, you got Craig up there, Rip up there, Blaine up there, of course, me counting JD's as only cash contributions. So, everybody else followed the rules, right? So you're the only one who said cash and fab. So it's kind of tough to where I understand you might have just wanted the same one to be both, but I told you to make two different entries, right? You get two entries, one for cash, one for fab. So, but anyway, so good job, Craig. At least he'll win something this year. So, because he doesn't win many battles against me in the council. But hey, I appreciate it. All right, I need that from you, Craig. That's why you're a great asset to the council. Is because you actually fight back, right? You actually challenge me, and sometimes we get some good ideas out of you. Sometimes not so much. I am encouraged that my decision to award Savoy the Fab, which cost you a loss. You still would have lost in the semis because Blaine's just a monster. But, this was a little bit, because if it worked out to where you would have won the championship if that hadn't happened, would have been that trade all over again, right? So, all right, but let's go ahead here, get into a recap of last week's games. Of course, we only had 4 games that were playing for something because Wilson and myself's game did not matter. Golly, it was bad. Like I said, I was going to struggle to get to 70. I did. Hawkinson's dead, torn ACL. Thank goodness I got that first game out of the way because I knew exactly what would happen. If I didn't win week 1, I wasn't going to be breaking 100 points these next 2 weeks, and I was going to end up with horse ass again. So, and then for Wilson or for Rip and Craig, whatever. Rip had a really good game actually, 141. So, like I said, Rip was peaking at the right time. He just had a little bit bad luck there to play JD last week. So, he had back in the first round. So, he didn't have a great game either, but. So anyway, we'll go ahead and start off with our ramen noodle, Macharan ramen noodle game of the week between the McCockners and the Swamp Donkeys. Blaine just asserts his dominance, asserts himself coming off the bye, said, no, this ain't happening to me. I'm not going to be one of these teams that so often happens, loses their first game coming off the bye. He showed everybody why he's the number 1 team in the league, why he's the highest scoring team in the league, 184 to 138. Good week from JD. And again, is what most likely is it seems like almost every year, this semifinal, in my opinion, was really the true championship game. I was pretty sure whoever came out of this game as the victor was probably going to win the title, probably 90% chance to win the title. And I hold true to that. But I mean, Kamara had 9 points. Otherwise, everybody else was in double digits. Puka, monster, 33-point game. St. Brown had 30 points. Gibbs had 24. Josh Allen had 28. And it sucks for JD. I mean, JD's. I've never really liked his team all season, but it's produced, and that's just kind of JD's team. I feel like every season, for the most part. Not always the best team on paper, but they perform. He's typically right there, always in the mix for a playoff spot, except for last year, whenever he's really, really dog shit record. But he played the waiver wires very well this year. Had a great season, I think, for him. Easily, I think, finished as probably the second best team in the league. And Njoku, his end to the season was just phenomenal. CDs end of the season phenomenal. T. Higgins had a great last couple weeks. Jordan Love has been really good for the majority of his starts the last few weeks. Save one a couple weeks ago. His bench was dog shit, but he never really had to rely on it. So those guys he picked up stayed healthy, and like I said, Blaine, it's just a buzzsaw, right? It's just too much to overcome, too much. So congrats, Blaine. Moving on to the championship match, our other semifinal game. Two very undeserving teams trade Dak, and it was fun while it lasted. Obviously, I think Dylan changed his name to this last year or sometime during this season. I think it was last year as well, about this time, about when Dak starts showing his true colors. But Dylan does win 121 to 109. Of course, he was down going into. I think all Savoy's players were done by noon. Well, I guess he had Mostert. No, they were done on Sunday, right? And then Kelsey played on Monday, and McCaffrey played on Monday on Christmas Day. Kelsey, underwhelming game, 9 points, but McCaffrey had a great game, 26, does what he does, gives Dylan the win, and rematch of the last year's championship game. And I don't remember the last time, if ever, we've had a repeat. If we had, it's back in the dark ages of the league, the early days. I would say in the live ball era, we have never had a repeat. I'm probably wrong on this. I'm sure maybe Plunk had a rematch of somebody in one of his 3 championships, but I don't remember it. So, but for Savoy, Browning 3 picks. Mostert didn't play a lot. He got a little dinged up. Diggs has just been awful the last month and a half. Really was the key to Savoy's downfall, was Diggs just falling off the face of the planet ever since he complained. I guess he didn't complain. His brother complained on his behalf on Twitter. It's been all downhill from here. But all these fringe guys that he's thrown in, like Tucker Kraft and Josh Palmer, they had games a little bit more closer to what they truly are as players. He doesn't play DeMarcus Robinson, another 20-point game from him. That almost makes the difference if he played him over Palmer. That's it. There really wasn't a combination that would have got him the win. Not guys that you're going to play. Whatever. Good for Dylan. He's back in the playoffs. Dylan's really been carried by McCaffrey all season. It's very frustrating for a team like me. Tyreek had basically the same amount of points. How Tyreek couldn't carry me to a championship game, but he's really only got McCaffrey. Pollard's not been great. Ridley's been very up and down. Addison's been up and down. Boyd's not good. Kelsey's not been great. Gino's not been great, but he's just got a bunch of guys. And I guess they play well together, right? They're a good team. So next here, our horse-ass bracket, Ford. Boom. Couldn't have picked a better time to pull out his best game of the season, 155 to 122 over Duncan. Puts Duncan on a 6-game losing streak going into the regular season. Duncan had a nice bounce-back week, 122. But unfortunately for him, just never stood a chance. Pickens had 34 points. Amari Cooper, if that wasn't bad enough, Amari Cooper had 51 and a half points. I believe that's the second highest point totals for an individual player during the season. But Mixon and Walker didn't do much. Goff didn't do much. Darren Waller didn't do anything. Bijan had a pretty good game, almost 20 points. But really, it was those 3 guys. It was really Bijan, Pickens, and Amari dominating to be able to get him to that point total. Duncan got his gooser from Sutton. If he can get some production from there, it's a little bit closer, but it's just tough to overcome whenever somebody has a player score 50 points. Dak had a little bit of okay game. Eckler is that's got to be one of the biggest regrets of the season of any owner, right? Duncan sitting there at 101, won the draft combine, proved he's more athletic than all of us combined in the league. Has a chance to take Christian McCaffrey, who's been far and away the number 1 running back in the league this season. He takes Austin Eckler. Eckler has probably one of his worst years in the last 4 years. And that cost him. If he has McCaffrey, he's probably in the title game right now. And instead, he's not. He's sitting at home with his putt in his hand trying to not win horse ass. And he's very upset about it, as I mentioned last week. He's very distraught by it. As is rightfully so. I get it. I know that pressure. I know that pain. So I feel for him. I still think he's got a good shot to avoid it. He's got a good, solid roster. Jefferson's back. He's been balling. Kittle's been having some good games. Komet's been really great. The last month of the season, Pacheco's back, but now he's out again. Who knows? Credit to Ford for showing up for Christmas. Dad's home for Christmas, right? Let's see how long he stays this time. And then our dog shit matchup, dog shit team of the week, the Dirty Pigeons. The dirty swine flu, bird flu, Zika virus, throwing up all over themselves, engorged, looking like Jabba the Hutt. Team of the week, Dirty Birds of War, 58.9 points to 99.3 by concussion protocol. This is just really bottomed out for Connor, right? He's won one game out of his last 10. Connor has one game out of his last 10. Just an abysmal luck this season. But really, a lot of these games, it's just not been great, right? He had 2 players in double digits this week. Lamar had 27. Devontae Parker had 10.5. Nothing from the rest. Of course, Jamar Chase was hurt, didn't play. Keenan Allen was hurt, didn't play. Michael Pittman was hurt, didn't play. Zay Jones, hurt, didn't play. Zach Moss, hurt, didn't play. Stop me if you've heard this before, right? I mean, I sound like a broken record, And I think that Nick had a great opportunity to earn some goodwill, some good karma on his side going into the next season by putting his balls on the table and saying, hey, you know what, Connor? If somehow, some way you take this ragtag group of misfits and you beat me, I'll just take the horse ass, point blank, period. Don't even worry about next week. I've made similar bets like that in past seasons, and worked out. Obviously Nick doesn't have the kind of cojones to do something like that, but he won anyway, so he's fine. No harm, no foul. Just could have been a little bit more of a man about it, but I get it. I get not wanting to take the risk, right? Because you never know. Look at what Savoy. Savoy had a ragtag group of misfits last week and put up 140, right? So you never know. I understand not wanting to roll that dice. I just think it's a little chicken for it, right? Just a little chicken. So Michael Wilson, 0 points. K-Dot, 1.7. Wandale, 4.6. Drake London, 6.9. Nice. Achan, 4.1. He's fallen off the face of the earth. James Cook, boom, another bust game from him, 4 points. And for Nick, really, Stafford had a good game, which I guess he didn't even realize he started Stafford. He meant to start T-Law. Garrett Wilson was okay. Demario Douglas was okay. David Montgomery was okay, right? Everybody else dog shit, right? So Connor's moving on to the horse ass. That's all you need to know about that. All right. Was there any pickups this week? Duncan, bidding against himself, picked up Zamir White for 11 fab on the hope and prayer, I guess, that go on. Go. 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 It wasn't wide enough for him. He was scared. So he's just going to come right back in. Zamir White, he's been great with Jacobs out, but I just don't know that Jacobs is going to miss another game. But hey, I don't blame him for rolling the dice. So other than that, no other pickups really. I think everybody, the 4 teams left, the rosters are pretty much set. They are what they are. There's not really much out there on the waiver wire right now anyway. So without further ado, let's go ahead and break down our Horse Ass Championship and then our for real playoff championship, the Bring That Wood Championship. So start off here, Dirty Birds of War versus Kickers Lives Matter. This matchup's it's questionables all over this matchup, right? If everybody plays, this could be a very good game. This is almost a championship level game, a real championship, not a horse ass championship level game. Duncan is projected to win 126 to 119. Battle of the quarterback. You got Dak Prescott versus Lamar Jackson. Excuse me. Detroit's defense, not that good, right? It's not that good. That being said, 27 points, it's a pretty steep projection for Dak. I think that's kind of his ceiling in this matchup. versus a chance maybe if he was down in the 20s, I could see him getting 27, something like that. In Lamar, 24, Miami's defense is better. Lamar's been pretty good ever since the bye, the last 3 weeks. Not getting as much game scripted out of games. You basically just got hope that it's a shootout. But Miami's got a pretty solid defense. I think this guy has very high potential to be a very ugly game, very low-scoring game. So I'm going to give the slight edge to Dak, even though Lamar is by far the better quarterback in real life. Dak Prescott's not a good quarterback, but he's good for fantasy more consistently than Dak might be. So, because that Dallas-Detroit game could go into the 60s, right, scoring-wise. Next here, the battle of the running backs. You got James Cook and Devon Achane versus Austin Eckler and Isaiah Pacheco. Achane, questionable as always. I'm not sure if he practiced today or not. Pacheco is also questionable with a concussion. Man, early in the season, that was at least one game missed, guaranteed, right? Now, too much backups. NFL's just shuffling people quickly, get through concussion protocol, get back on the field, please. So I don't know. Of course, he does still have Clyde, and there's no McKinnon. He's also on the IR. So I think basically the Chiefs starting running back, Duncan will have if Pacheco clears concussion protocol or not. And Austin Eckler, he's just not been that guy this season, man. It's unfortunate. I think it's a little bit of a tough matchup for, New England's got a really good run defense. I think 16 points is really high for James Cook. They've been just stifling against the rush these last month. I'm just going to push this. I think this is tough. I think it's gross. Whoever can take an edge here at the running back, I think it's going to go a long way for who wins this game. Battle of the wide receivers. You got maybe Jamar Chase, maybe Keenan Allen, maybe Zay Jones against Justin Jefferson, Tyler Lockett, and maybe Cortland Sutton. I'm not sure what happened to him. Is he also concussed? So, if he doesn't have him, he's probably starting Noah Brown. Maybe he gets Brian Robinson back this week. Who knows? I'm pretty sure Jamar is not playing. Keenan probably will be back. Zay, I thought that he wouldn't be, but he's limited today. So, yeah, I guess maybe he could. It's tough, man. This is a tough game to pick with so many question marks. Because, if Jamar doesn't play, I guess he throws in Drake London or probably Pittman, gets a call up. If he clears concussion protocol, I guess just the names are sexier for Plunk, so I'll give the edge to Plunk there. Tight end, you got Kittle and K. Daughton. It's going to be Kittle. And then battle of the flex, you got Kmet versus Pittman. If Pittman plays, no matter how good Kmet's been, I think you got to give the edge to Pittman. If he's forced to slot in like a Zay Jones down there in the flex or like a Drake London down there, then I think you might have a little bit of an edge there with Kmet. So that's going to just depend. As it stands right now, if this is the way it breaks out, probably have to give the edge to Pittman. But I think Pittman's going to have to find his way into the starting 3 wide receivers. So otherwise, it's just going to take away from his positional advantage at wide receiver. So. Ultimately, I'd love to see Duncan win. I think the whole league's rooting for Duncan to win, to be quite honest. Everybody would love to see Connor win the horse ass. He hasn't won. Duncan's done his time. These guys have both won horse ass before. Connor won it whenever it wasn't really a thing. He didn't really have to do anything. Duncan ushered in the new era of horse ass punishments. So I'd like to see somebody else, a former champ, have to pay his dues as well. So. We'll go with Duncan in that one. And then that brings us to our championship game. What's going to be the sponsor for the final game of the week? Let's go with this. It's better if they're heated up, but it's all right. a callback to the German game. The Stroop waffles, even though this is made in Holland. It's not made in Germany, but it's a neighbor of Germany. Made in Holland, as you can see. The Stroop waffles, toasted waffles filled with caramel. They are certified sustainable palm oil, so that's very nice to see. This Dutch classic, the Netherlands. The Netherlands, the Dutch and the Deutsch, they're very cousins almost, you could say. They're very similar, related. It does contain wheat and milk and soy and eggs. It may also contain tree nuts. You want to keep this in a cool and dry place. You don't want it to get wet and humidified, and it would just be a very bad time. But, these nice Stroop waffles, they have a lot of saturated fats and added sugars, but, it is what it is. They taste good. You can put them over your coffee. I don't even know what accent that was. Oh, wow, I don't actually have any open. But these are very delicious. Original Stroop waffles. You get these at Costco. The official Stroop waffle of the Bring That Wood Fantasy Football League. These are not filled with any special surprises, unfortunately, but they are pretty good whenever they are. And like I said, normally I'll heat these up in the microwave. Since I don't drink coffee, I'll heat them up in the microwave for about, 7-8 seconds. And they're just very delicious little treats. So, anyways, without further ado, so cheers, Danke. Yeah, definitely need to be heated up, but, still tasty nonetheless. Should have prepared ahead of time, right? Yeah. That's right. We play it by ear. All right. So I'll save that for later. Yep. That is the rematch, as I alluded to earlier, between bitter rivals, best friends, right? The Swamp Donkeys and Trey Dag, Mr. Blaine Hill and Mr. Dylan Shade. Which also, of course, I would be remiss if I don't extend a congratulations to you and Alexis as well on your engagement. I almost thought we got a double dose of engagements whenever I saw Rip's Instagram post. Got the best gift or whatever it was. I assume that was an engagement post. I guess it was just a regular run-of-the-mill Christmas post. So, I wonder how many other people got fooled by that as well. Maybe it was just me and Erica. TikTok, Craig, TikTok, buddy. You don't want to be the last one, do you? Yeah, that'd be a real shame. I'm sure you're, we'll see. Anyways, battle of the quarterback here. I digress. I'm going after Craig enough. We got Josh Allen and Russ Wilson. Russ is not going to play. He's got benched by Jarrett Stidham, so it's going to be Russ versus, Josh Allen versus Geno Smith. Of course, New England, not the greatest matchup. Josh played him back in week 7, had a pretty good game, 29 points. So I think, Josh should win that one pretty easily. I don't expect Geno to do much against Pittsburgh. Battle of the wide receivers. You got, running backs, Christian McCaffrey, Tony Pollard versus Alvin Kamara and Jahmyr Gibbs, sorry. Of course, Kamara is coming off his worst game of the season, 9 points. First game in double digits all season. He had a pretty good game against Tampa back in his first game back. Just dump off. That's all Derek Carr does. Dump off Derek. I think on the whole, it's going to be cool, but it's just tough. I can't go against Christian McCaffrey at the battle of the running backs. He's just that much more elite than every other running back in the league. But I do think that, Blaine has easily 2 and 3 in that matchup, and then Pollard a distant 4, in my opinion. So, but Pollard could have a good game too. Like I said, Detroit, that could be a shootout. So, but we'll go with Dylan in that one. Battle of the wide receiver, you got Calvin Ridley, Addison, and Odell Beckham versus Amon-Ra St. Brown, Mike Evans, and Puka Nacua. Mike Evans is just on unreal tear as well. I think I skipped over him in the recap, but Another 2-touchdown game, 27 points. New Orleans typically, gives him a tough time. They know how to play Mike Evans, so I'm thinking he's got a little bit of a down game. I think it's kind of baked into his projection, though. It's Blaine. It's Blaine with the wide receivers. It shouldn't be. This is where Blaine's made his money all season. He should continue to dominate. Had a tremendous positional advantage here, it's Blaine in a landslide. Battle of the tight ends. You got Evan Ingram and Travis Kelce. I do believe that Cincinnati is one of the worst in the league against tight ends. I think that Kelce's been very underwhelming the last month and a half, 2 months of the season, really. Ever since he's dated Taylor Swift. Coincidence? Maybe he's got his mind on something else. I don't know. Maybe she's stealing his powers away. But I think that he comes and balls out. I think this is a get right game for the Chiefs. I think they're a little bit pissed off, and I think that Kelce just dominates. I think we see a 25-point game from Kelce this week. And then battle of the flex, you got A.J. Brown versus Zeke Elliott. Zeke's been a quiet surprise here. Ramondre's officially on IR, so he's done. He's had some really good games. Buffalo's defense is not very good. I think he's pretty much a guarantee to probably get at least one touchdown. And he's really cooled off the last month compared to what he was. I mean, he's still cooled off, 16, 10, 14 in the last 3 weeks. I'd love that, but that's from a wide receiver 4, but we'll give the advantage to Blaine there. So, Blaine's projected to win 138-105. I mean, it would take a monumental performances from McCaffrey and Kelce and Calvin and Pollard, and have all of Blaine's players just spontaneously combust on the field without scoring any points, I think, for Dylan to have a shot here. I think Blaine will be well on his way to repeating as champion, and probably set himself up to make a strong run at a three-peat next season. And if that happens, boy, it really devalues Connors. I got to tell you that. I mean, if somebody does it again right after his three-peat, what does it say about the rest of us? So, anyways, that's all I got this week, fellas, this season. It's been a pleasure as always. It's been a weird season, like I said. I couldn't imagine doing this with any other group of guys. I love you guys. I hope to see some of y'all soon. I don't know when that will be. Probably not within the next few months. Probably the Crawfish Bowl will be the next time I see a lot of you. Maybe even the draft. So like I said, I truly hope that all of y'all can find a way to make it there. I don't want to have to deal with coming up with contingencies and whatever. As far as I know, the draft order will be determined in Mexico. We will have the award show in Mexico. That poll will be coming out probably within the next few weeks to vote on. The results will be locked down secret to be revealed live at the draft. Draft weekend. Because I thought that was a great success this season. Like I said, love you guys. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate your commitment to this league. It's what keeps me doing these videos because I know how committed you guys are. It's what keeps me looking up all these different stats and coming up with tiers and the power rankings and all this and that. It truly is a joy and a privilege to be your guys' commissioner. And with that being said, woo pig.